5 of them are us.
No, there's 18 attendees and 3 staff.
Oh, you can tell if there's staff.
Yeah, we're counted staff, yeah. So if we get 50%.
Yep.
Well, it's 9 o'clock.
Rock and roll.
You ready to go?
Yep.
Ready to go, and Ryan, get ready to record.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to Digital Marketing 101 for charter schools. I'm Stuart Ellis, the President and CEO of Charter School Capital, and I'm privileged to have with me today Charter School Capital's Vice President of Marketing, Kim Brater. Hewitt, the leading marketing firm in the education and charter school space. Michael and Kim have been working together to support Charter School Capital's efforts for many years now, and also those of charter schools across the country. I'm excited to have 2 experts like this to share their thoughts on digital marketing for charter schools. And as we go through things today, a couple things of note for you all. One is that the presentation that you're going to see today is available for download at slideshare.net/charterschoolcapital, so you don't need to take screenshots or anything like that. It's all going to be there, and you can share it with others or refer to it in the future if you find the material today helpful. I think the other thing I'd mention is that as part of our continuing webinar series to provide tips, support, and aid to charter schools in their efforts to serve students better and hopefully grow and expand, I think we have a series of webinars including coming up following this one, March 29th, we have facilities financing options available for charter schools, and on April 5th, webinar regarding growth strategy. Those, along with this digital marketing update, are the most popular webinars we offer and have, and we also do these seminars live across the country. In fact, Kim and Michael next week will be at the California Charter School Conference doing or providing insight to charter schools in California regarding some of the topics that will be covered today regarding social media and their take on digital marketing. So without further ado today, I wanted to turn things over to Kim and Michael and have them describe their backgrounds and then drop into some of the specific material that I think you'll all enjoy today. Thanks for joining us today, and look forward to having you with us in the future.
Thanks, Stuart. This is Kim. Thanks for everyone joining us today. I am the head of marketing here at Charter School Capital. Been with the organization for about 4 years, and prior to that, I ran an agency that I founded here in Portland, Oregon, and worked at that agency for 15+ years on various with Michael for quite some time, so I'll let him introduce himself.
Well, thank you, Kim, and thanks, Stuart, for the very generous introduction of Barber and Hewitt. As Kim and Stuart mentioned, my name is Michael Barber. I'm the founder of a small boutique agency based in Los Angeles called Barber and Hewitt. I've been in this industry, digital as it is, for, gosh, over 15 years at this point. Really have grown up in the industry and spent the last 1.5 years building our own agency that serves a variety of clients, particularly in the education, healthcare, and startup space. I've worked with CSC over the past 5 or 6 years and had the pleasure to work with a few small schools here in the Los Angeles area on a few of their marketing initiatives. So have some really great experience with what works and what really doesn't for both startup schools all the way through maturing schools. And really happy to be here and invited to bring this topic to you all today. So just a little bit of an agenda of what we're going to cover over the next 56 or so minutes. We're going to talk about why this matters, give you an idea of why we think digital marketing is so important for charter schools in the space that we're in. We're going to talk about and really define digital marketing and bring some of the elements of branding in to understand why that's vitally important for your school as you begin to explore different digital marketing tactics that are out there. We're going to jump into some of the best tactics and tools we feel like charter schools can leverage regardless of whether you're starting or whether you're a maturing school. Give you a list of resources where you can learn more if you're a lifelong learner like Kim and myself. We're going to give you a laundry list of a ton of different resources that you can leverage for your team and or for your school over the next few years. And as Stuart mentioned in the beginning, these slides will be available at slideshare.net/charterschoolcapital. We will push them up just about a few minutes after the presentation, and everyone in attendance today will actually get an email in about 2 hours that will have a link to the presentation that you can utilize to send and forward to your team or keep on file for when you want to dive back into these slides at a later date. So let's start with why does this matter? And Kim and I really feel like this is a moments conversation. And what we mean by moments is that when you think about what's happened over the last few years as it relates to how consumers and your community advocates, your students, your parents, or people that could be advocates of your school, when they're looking for different opportunities, whether it be a parent looking for a school, a student researching different school options that are out there, this is really about being in the moment when they need someone to be there, that being you as the school, to give them insights as to what your school is all about, what is your school offer that's different. A few months ago, Google published a really interesting video, did a really interesting video called their Google Moments video. So we want to show you that video now. I will tell you that if the internet speed you're on is a little slow, this may buffer a little bit, but we've included links with any of the video resources at the bottom, so as you get these slides later on today, you can click through and see all these videos on YouTube. So let's just take a quick look at that video right now. So as Google shows you there, this is really just because we've seen the growth, the massive growth of not only smartphones but tablets, but devices that people can take on the go. This is about connecting with people at a moment's notice when they're searching for you, when they're looking for you on a search engine or across social media. The real question is, are you there? And it's about meeting them in that moment where they have a need for a school or looking for an opportunity to work for a school, or maybe a student looking for just something different in their life. As I mentioned before, if that was a little bit of a buffering issue, we have included the links at the bottom of the videos. One important thing we also wanted to note is just how important online discovery is for education. This resource that you see below this graphic also comes from our friends at Google and explores how people, that when they're looking for things around jobs and education, how all the different channels that are out there, from search to email to social, how often those have an interaction or an effect on users when they're looking for things in the jobs and education space. And as you can see, all of the different channels out there are having both an assist interaction, whether it be at the beginning when someone's looking for different opportunities within the education space, or at the end when they're about to make that decision. All of these digital channels that we'll talk through with in a second can have a really important impact on somebody as they're going through a purchase or a selection decision, if you will, within the education space. So I'm going to hop this over to Kim and let her define what is digital marketing and take it from there.
Thanks, Michael. So what is digital marketing? There's a lot of banter and discussion, debate over the past 15, 20 years what digital marketing is, and it seems as if the definition changes each time we talk about it, which is by design because digital marketing does change. The way that we go about doing digital marketing changes as technology changes and as the needs within various communities change. But in its pure essence of what digital marketing is all about, it's really about communication. It's about communicating with your specific target audiences online in a very meaningful way. So think about the audiences that you need to reach on a daily basis: parents, students, the community at large, any influencers that help promote your school, any organizations or individuals for fundraising. Those would all be appropriate audiences, and you need to think about the best ways to communicate with them. Some of those may not necessarily be online, but most of them will be touched with some kind of online communication. Also, there's a lot of things that you can do on digital to help with fundraising, to help with your student enrollment, and to help with support that you may have within the community. So there are a lot of ways that you can use digital marketing, and it's something that charter schools really should take a look at because in many ways the costs are low compared to the yield that you'll get from the activities that you're doing. So what is your vision online? What's your school's purpose? How are you creating powerful marketing messages? The first thing that you need to think about is defining your brand. So brand is a big word. It has a lot of different meanings, but at the core, defining your brand is really what makes your school unique. Just deciding that you're going to start a charter school and put a flag in the ground saying we're here, it's not enough. What is it about your program? What is it about your mission that makes you unique and will make families and parents want their kids to go to your school over the school down the street? And that's really the essence of who you are. What makes you so unique that someone should choose your program in your school over another? And once you have that defined, you need to think about how you're going to deliver on your brand promise as well. What are you promising to deliver, and how are you going to deliver that? And once you have that defined, then having that flow through all of your digital marketing will help in those programs. What are you trying to accomplish? What's a goal for your school? Are you looking at increasing enrollment? Are you looking at generating awareness in your community? Are you looking to replicate and open new facilities? What are the things that are reasonable goals for your charter school at this moment? And it may change over the course of a year, or 2 years, or 3 years. And then you want to communicate strategically. What channels and efficient for your budget and goals? This is where analytics and marketing, which we'll get to in a little while, is really important because you can see what's working for you, and you obviously want to put your dollars into the programs that are working the best. And how are you going to measure your results?
Thanks, Kim. So let's jump into some of those tactics as it relates to digital channels that you've got at your fingertips as a school. And keep in mind, these are what Kim and I feel are the best tactics for you to start off at, or at least be thinking about, whether you're starting a school or whether you're maturing or a sustaining school. There are certainly a slew of more. We've kind of picked the top ones we've seen, not only just leveraged by schools that we've had experience with, but just other schools in the marketplace. So these are the top tactics we're going to go through over the bulk of today's webinar, talking about your website, your home base. We're going to talk a little bit about search engine optimization, otherwise known as SEO, social media, a little bit on email marketing, also talk to pay-per-click advertising or PPC, display advertising, which is known as banner advertising. I'm sure you're all familiar with that, being bombarded on news sites and things of that nature. And the last tactic that we'll talk to is video marketing. Again, these are just a few we've seen a lot of schools leverage well, what seems to be working for them when we've had conversations with their teams. But there are other opportunities that are out there that we'll certainly start to explore in a future webinar as well. So let's talk about your website first, and this is really your home base. And the important thing to think about here, especially in beyond 2015 and into 2016, is this idea of having a mobile or responsive friendly website. On April 21st, 2015, so just about 6 or 7 months ago, Google actually rolled out some pretty significant changes to their algorithm that really favors mobile sites. So why did they do this? One, they want to make sure that people that are being served their search results are having the best experience once they click past that search result. And taking someone to a site that doesn't work well on the device that they may be looking at that search result is not a great user experience. So Google has actually begun to favor sites that leverage mobile-friendly or responsive design philosophies, and we'll get to what those mean in a second. But at its core, what this means is that regardless of the device that a person is looking at your website, whether that's a normal desktop computer, a tablet per se, or some sort of smartphone, regardless of the size, it means that your site they're able to experience that site regardless of the size of the screen that they're looking at it. So you've got to ensure that your website works across all these different devices that a user or someone that's coming to your website might be looking for. Around positive user experience. Where do you start this conversation? The first is to pick a platform that will, really leverage these right out of the box for you. There are 3 recommendations in front of you: Squarespace, WordPress, and Wix. All of these have options for you to leverage that will allow you to essentially do a plug and play and drag and drop style builder that will allow you to have a platform, a website that works across different devices, regardless of whether it's a desktop, a tablet, or a smartphone. Certainly there are tons of other options out there, so you've got to really consider what works for not only your school, what works for your budget, what works for the ability for you and your technical knowledge, because there's certainly different things that you can do with these platforms. But these are 3 options that are out there that will allow you as a school to really build a unique presence that works across the different devices and can be leveraged, whether you're a startup school or whether you're maturing as well. Some important questions to ask yourself as it relates to building your websites. First is around design. What does the layout look like? How is color and text used? How are you incorporating your visuals into your website as well? Keep in mind that the web is really a visual medium these days, because all of us have gotten accustomed to platforms like Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and Snapchat and the like. People are looking for a visual experience when they get to your website. So if you're going to spend dollars on assets and images and things like that, those are going to be things that you can not only use for offline collateral, whether it be a mailer or a letter or something along those lines, but it's important for you to have those types of assets so you can leverage them on your website too. Innovation, does the website look like a template, or is it original and bring some of those brand elements and uniqueness to your organization? All of the platforms we showed you have the ability for you to use a template. It's really up to you and what your brand dictates to bring that to life. You've just got to make sure that it's got some uniqueness, that it doesn't look the same as all the different websites that are out there. Content, is it fresh and interesting, and does it get updated frequently? The important thing here is that does it speak to you, is it speaking to the end user, that consumer or student, in the way that you want to speak as a brand, right? And two, does it get updated? This is important because Google really cares about fresh, updated, and relevant content. If you've had a site that's really been stagnant over the last few years, you could be losing out on some of those search results just because you're not updating that content on a regular basis. And we do keep harping on Google just because of the amount of traffic that it generates, not only for charter schools, but for websites at large. Technology, do the pages load promptly? Do the pages load quickly? And does everything work on the site? Just making sure that you've got access to making sure that that technology works as best as possible. 5, some interactivity. Is information presented in a variety of ways to engage different audiences? Some people are going to like text, some people are going to like videos, some people are going to like photos. So making sure you've got those different types of interactivity that are available for different users that may be coming to the site. And ease of use, vitally important. Is it easy to navigate? Is it easy to perform a search? These are things you've got to keep in mind so that users understand how to get through your site as efficiently as possible.
One thing I would add to what Michael is talking about is that think about your website as your main presence. Many times people think of their website as just a brochure, and I would encourage you to not think of your website as a brochure and really think of it as Michael says, your home base. It's where you want to drive all of your target audiences and provide different types of content for those audiences. Many schools will have areas of their site that are specific to parents and families who are attending the school, but they'll also provide information that's relevant to the community. So think about it as a much broader way where you can have conversations with different groups of people.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really great point that Kim just made. And also think of it as a springboard to where your other places that you have conversations with your community, right? So making sure that you've got links to your social channels, whether those be Facebook, Instagram, or other places, and the ability to sign up for a newsletter if you are doing things from that nature. And we'll get into some of those additional things as well, but really, really great point from Kim there. If you've already got your website up, there is a great tool that Google provides that can really provide some insights into how your site is behaving, both on mobile and desktop. It's called Google PageSpeed Insights. When you get access to these slides, which we will share here at the end and also email to you at the end of our conversation today, you can actually just click on the link there. But if you go to Google and actually Google PageSpeed Insights, all you have to do is put in your www, your website.com. It will actually score your website both within a mobile and desktop environment. This could be really interesting because it could show you exactly what Google thinks of your site, both from a mobile desktop perspective. They will actually give you insights into what you should fix, what you should consider fixing, and what's working. And this can be really vitally important if you've had an old website or you've got some sort of team that's not only monitoring but maintaining your website, to give them some insights into what could help it perform a bit better. This, the way that Google is scoring this is a couple of key factors. They're looking at the code behind the website. They're also looking at the experience. Does it load inside a mobile device or a tablet device well? How fast does it load? Things of that nature. All of these insights can help not only improve just the experience on your website, but also hopefully help you rank better within search results for different key terms that you may be targeting. So let's hop from our website into search engine optimization, or what's otherwise known as SEO. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see what is a Google search results page. We're talking about, in this case, the organic listings, those organic listings that are in the middle. Anytime you see sort of a yellow background, or also the ads that are on the right-hand side of the page, Those are paid ads, and we'll get to those in just a second. But we're specifically talking about the organic or the free listings, if you will, that appear in the middle of the page. I will note here, and I'll also mention this again, that Google is actually getting rid of the ads, the right-hand side ads, in just a few weeks. All of the ads will now appear above the organic search rankings. So this screenshot is going to be a little bit old in the next few weeks. But back to SEO. So these organic listings are free, and they're based on their relevance to the search term that somebody may be looking for, like Phoenix Charter Schools, or Ohio Charter Schools, or Los Angeles Charter Schools, or Science and Academy Charter Schools in Los Angeles. What Google is showing you there is what they believe are the best results for the key term or the word that someone is searching. The goal for Google at the end of the day, because this is what makes them money, is to produce the best user experience when someone clicks on those organic listings, right? So they are ranking the listings that they show there based on what they feel like those listings will provide the best experience to the user when and if they click through. Google looks at a couple different things, but they're looking for easy navigation. Do you have an appropriate folder structure from home to all these different landing pages that you may have? Does the site load very quickly? Because we are in a mobile-first environment these days, making sure that you've got your website on a fast hosting environment, making sure that the code is there, and that's why that PageSpeed tool is so vitally important for brands and charters to leverage to see how fast their site loads. Is the content related to the term that someone is putting inside that search box? And two, does it have a mobile-friendly or responsive website so that regardless of where someone is searching, whether it be on their phone or on their desktop, that someone's going to get a great experience? So here's an example of sort of that flow that we just chatted through. In this case, someone's searching for Phoenix Charter Schools. They're provided this particular search listing. They're able to click on either one or any number of those results that you see there, and that will take them to the landing page where someone could, convert, if you will, or sign up or enroll or sign up for a newsletter, and they can complete that enrollment or interest form available to them. One important thing to keep in mind also is just how important local search engine optimization is here as well. Google has a tool called My Business. And if you just go to Google My Business, you'll actually be able to access this website. And this is based on providing results from a local level. Why is this important for charter schools? Because largely most charter schools are operating on a local level, right? You're pulling students from various different places. Of course, this doesn't apply to online charters or charters that may take from a wide geographic area. But for those charter schools that are serving local communities, it's really vitally important that you have your charter listed within these local search results, largely because not only does, when someone's looking on a map or looking within their local search area, but Google does give some preference when someone is, standing with their phone looking for a school, and they may be provided with a set of schools that's right within their locale. So making sure that you've got your school listed within My Business is really important. This does a couple of things beyond just those search results. It gets you listed in Google Maps. It gets you the opportunity to put in hours. It allows you to upload images of your school. So all of that can show, all that sort of rich contextual information can show up within search results, within those search results for your school as well. So let's give you some tips around SEO first, so that you've got some idea of where to go from here. First, you're going to want to pick 10 to 15 relevant keywords that have got a search volume of about 300. That you can put in different words, whether they be geographic based or maybe they're focused on different parts of your organization or different focus things like science, math, things of that nature. They will show you not only what the search volume is, so showing you how many searches happen at a global level, how many are happening within a local level. They'll also show you how competitive that term is, right? You're going to want to pick keywords that are relevant for your school, one, that have got some search volume, two, and that don't have as high as a competition when you're a startup school, so that hopefully you can show up. For those schools that have got really great content and really great websites and have had a good long domain history, you can start to pick some of those more competitive keywords that other schools may be showing up for. Incorporate those keywords into your content naturally, as you would within a conversation. So back in the day, us SEOers or search engine optimization people would actually try and stuff these keywords into copy. Incorporating those keywords. So make sure that the content and the copy or the text that you've got on your website feels like you're having a conversation and you're incorporating those 10 to 15 keywords right within the content as naturally as possible, because Google can see those and understands those things these days. Make sure you're writing original, quality and educational content for your site, and do not duplicate content. So Google's, as I'd mentioned before, is looking for fresh, relevant, and interesting content, and they're essentially scraping. They're going out to the entire World Wide Web about every 24 hours these days. So make sure that you're actually writing that quality content and that it's going up. Google's seeing it sometimes within seconds, sometimes within hours these days. Make sure you're not duplicating content. What do we mean by that? Make sure that you're not just simply reusing pages over and over again just for the sake of saving time, because Google does not like to see that duplicate content, and they can actually score you negatively for duplicating content across different websites. So make sure you're not going out to a competitor and simply taking their copy and adjusting it. Take the time to write that original and quality content so that it's unique to your organization. And startup schools and or maturing schools is go ahead and submit your website to Google's Webmaster Tools site. The URL is right in front of you, but essentially what this does is it allows Google to have a one-to-one conversation with your website. They will give you some insights into what's working and what's not working across your website. They will show you different search terms that are driving traffic there, and it'll just make sure that all of the pages that are getting indexed appropriately. And can ensure that you're getting the right traffic from a search engine perspective, at least from Google. And then also, there are a ton of education directories and .orgs out there, and we'll talk about one or two later on in the presentation, where you can get listed for your school. You're going to want to reach out to them and submit your URL to those directories, because Google is looking and does provide some relevancy around the number of inbound links, so how many websites are pointing to your website, in how they rank those search results. So there are a ton out there. You will see the ones that are reputable by those that have got listings for other schools, but we're certainly happy to answer some specific questions on those a little bit later. So that's SEO. Another great digital tactic that's available for schools is social media. You know, social media has grown exponentially over the last 5 to 7 to 8 years. You've got Facebook that's north of 1.5 billion users, Instagram around 400 million users. These are the places where people are really connecting these days on the web or on their devices. It's a really great opportunity to connect with your audience instantly in a real-time perspective and in a visual way and on a one-to-one basis, right? Unlike your website, which for most websites you're talking from a one-to-many perspective, right? You're writing for a ton of different audiences that may be coming there, but social allows you to have that one-to-one conversation, whether it be with an advocate, whether it be with a parent, whether it be with a student, and allows people to interact in a real-time perspective. One of the key insights here for you all to understand is there is advertising available on any of these platforms, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, any number of the social media channels that are out there. This does allow you to target users by their location, by industry, by title. If you're going to try and generate student interest or parent interest in a specific zip code, such as 91602, and that's where your charter is, and you want to generate interest and show your posts as well as opportunities to connect with those people right within a 5-mile radius, All of these platforms allow not only just schools but brands to advertise on them and connect with users in that way. That's important because over the last few years, all of these platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, have reduced what they call their organic reach, right? So it used to be that you would go on Facebook and you'd see all of the stories that were being shared by the brands and the people that you followed. That wasn't the best experience for users, and also these platforms have to make money, and so they have reduced the reach of non-paid, if you will, posts via Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and are putting more relevancy around those brands that pay to get into people's news feeds. So if you're trying to drive interest around an event, around a fundraiser, around enrollment, one of the channels you may want to look at spending some dollars in is doing some targeting from a social media perspective.
So Michael, I wanted to add on the social media piece that one thing we didn't dive too much into is the concept of reviews and getting reviews of your school. There are several sites that schools should be looking at, including greatschools.org. It's a place where you can have your school listed if it's not already listed and cataloged on their site. And you also can ask parents and people that are affiliated with your school to fill out a review of your school. So greatschools.org does a rating system of 10 being the highest, so from 0 to 10. And it is a site that's heavily used by parents and families when they're looking at various education options. There are other sites that are like that, but greatschools.org is one that comes to mind. So that's definitely an education site to look at.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a really key point, because people are looking beyond just what brands are sharing within their social presence these days and looking at Yelp-like competitors for any number of things in their lives, whether it be education or a handyman or something along those lines, or a new job, right? You've got the Glassdoors of the world's out there. So these review sites are becoming vitally important, that you've got a presence and that you're encouraging your advocates, whether those are students, parents, community members, board members, to review the school to provide a positive view of what's happening at that school.
The other thing, too, with Great Schools is that it does get cataloged. So as people are doing searches and looking for information, they'll get directed to Great Schools as your presence on Great Schools increases. So that's an added bonus.
Yeah, definitely an added bonus that you've got not only your school ranking for maybe something, but also your Great Schools reviewer or something along those lines.
Yep, and it doesn't cost anything. It's free.
Yep. It's free, which is perfect for charters, right? One other thing to mention is to think about all these different platforms that are out there, and schools can get really overwhelmed by asking these questions of, do I need to be on this platform? Do I need to be there? What we will tell you is that, number one, you should be where your audience is, right? So if you know that your parents, students, your advocates, where your board members be, that's where you need to be. That's how you answer that question. So if that involves being on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the like, that's where you've got to build your presence, is where you think those fish are, where your audience are, where is your community. Often when we get that question, we get asked, where should I start? The best, because of the amount of people that are on Facebook, you've at least got to have a presence there because of how much searching and how much activity and how many people are on that platform. Beyond there, it's up to you to think about how much time and energy and other channels that we are going to leverage. But there's great tools out there that allow you to distribute your content to all these different channels, all these different social media networks that are out there, from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter to LinkedIn, in a really easy way. So this doesn't have to be such a heavy burden, and we'll get into some of those tools in a second. One last point that we wanted to make around social was to don't forget the new platforms that are out there. Snapchat is having a huge growth year, and we get a lot of questions from the educational space of, well, should I be on these new platforms? Should I be there? And the first answer to that question is that yes, you've at least got to go in there and secure your name, right? So, if you use your kids as the barometer, or you use the news media as the barometer of, hey, there's this new social network out there that's getting talked about, the one thing you've got to go out there and do is at least get a hold of your brand name, right? Get a hold of your school name as the username or the profile name, just so that you have secured that for the future. You know, as Facebook grew, there was a ton of conversations, and this happens on every single time one of these takes off is, oh my gosh, I forgot to secure our name, and now I've got all these different usernames that I have to point people to. So when you're hearing about these new platforms, go out and at least get your name, right? The question of whether you should be there or not is really a time and resources and effort level and what it produces as a result for your school. You know, we particularly see schools doing really interesting things within Facebook, within Instagram, within Twitter, and then they're using some of these other new channels depending upon the audience. You know, if you've got schools where kids are a little bit older, you know, they're entering middle and high school, they're starting to get exposed to places like Snapchat. It may be a reason for you to be there, not only just, you know, to build a presence, but to also monitor what may or may not be being exchanged between students. LinkedIn, certainly more of a B2B audience, but as you're thinking about how do you create advocates from a board level perspective, maybe from a fundraising perspective, it could be interesting for you to think about having a presence there too, just because that audience will be a bit different for you as a school. Anything to add there, Kim?
Nope.
Okay. And then one last point we wanted to make was just about Facebook itself. You know, the thing to think about Facebook is that the scale is well beyond Facebook.com or the Facebook, if you will, app that is on most of our phones. Facebook not only owns Facebook, of course, but they own WhatsApp, they have a messaging app, and they've got 400 million plus users on Instagram, which they also own. It's a behemoth. And so this idea of should I or should I not be on Facebook goes well beyond just understanding of being on Facebook.com. There are a ton of different opportunities that we're seeing from Facebook beyond just Facebook itself. You know, Facebook's starting to do a lot of investment into their Messenger app. They're going to be allowing brands and schools, if you will, or organizations to advertise within their Messenger app. You're starting to see them. They've offered advertising across Instagram, regardless of where you are. That's well out of beta, about 6 months out of beta. So all of these products that are within, if you will, the Facebook ecosystem present a myriad of opportunities for you to connect with different audiences well beyond Facebook itself.
I want to make a comment. I just want to make a comment about Facebook and your presence there, but think of it as another vehicle to have a conversation, but don't look at it as just another website. Right? You should be looking at Facebook as a way to have richer conversations with your audiences, and parents in particular are all over Facebook now. You will find students in the younger set still using Facebook, but it's a little bit old for them, right? They've moved on to other platforms, but it is used widely and heavily by parents, and so many parents tend to engage with organizations or groups on Facebook more so than they might on a website itself. So that's something to keep in mind. And while you will have two disparate platforms, you can use content that you put on your website and tailor it slightly and use it on Facebook.
It's a really important point, yeah. The next tactic we're going to talk through is email marketing. We think it's best for keeping your brand top of mind, especially for interested in an audience who's opted in for your updates. You know, this can be as easy as putting up, you know, an opt-in within not only your website, but you can collect email addresses across Facebook and Twitter as well. But it allows you as a school to create personalized messages and newsletters for, these could be net new students, net new parents, could be a specific target audience, and split those users up. It's a really cost-effective and easy opportunity for schools to leverage. A lot of the platforms offer the education space. It really offers an opportunity for users to share, for email, you know, itself, for the organization to share what's happening About email as a social network, there is an opportunity, a really easy opportunity for people that are within your subscriber group to forward these news off to their friends or their fellow neighbors to say, hey, look what's happening at the charter that my kid is going to. This could be something interesting for you to consider. The key thing here is that everybody understands email, right? We've been in email for 15 plus-ish, 20-ish plus years here from the advent of Hotmail in 1991. So people really understand this platform. They get email, right? You've still got people that don't, you still have those, you may be having those conversations with your parents or your grandparents or an elder loved one. Works. It can be a great channel for schools to leverage to talk to different groups in different ways, from parents to different advocates to the community to politicians that may be important advocates of the school as well, and create really interesting messaging for all those different audiences. Some tips to keep in mind here: almost everyone these days reads emails on their phone, so you want to make sure that your emails are as mobile friendly as possible. We will give you some resources to help make that happen in just a second. If you can and you've got the ability, let the images do the talking. We all have access to these phones and these tablets that have beautiful screens. People spend a lot of time in email. They want to have a quick experience. And images can help get your point across in a really unique and quick way rather than text. So if you can, let those images do the talking. Copy and text should be a minimum of 15-point font. We see a lot of schools and brands, for that matter, trying to use smaller font sizes. It simply doesn't work when someone's looking, at their device without having to hold it right next to their eyes. So keep in mind they're using a minimum font there. Ensure you're following spam compliance. In the United States, you can technically, for lack of a better term, you can email every email address that exists one time, but you can only continue that conversation with people who have physically and said, yes, I want to opt in and to receive future communications with you. You've also got to make sure that you've got your organizational name, address, and phone number within the email wherever you would like it to be CAN spam compliant. And you always have to ensure that you give subscribers the ability to unsubscribe. If you follow those three things, you will never have a spam issue for your organization for the rest of time. We wanted to give you a great resource for email. We think there's a ton out there. Our personal preference is MailChimp, one, because it's free for education organizations and nonprofits. They also have a ton of great features for you to utilize, like templates that are ready to go. Drag and drop your logo in, drag and drop an image, type away, and you've got an email ready to go. They also just rolled out an app that administrators, teachers, anybody that's within your school can keep on their phone. They can actually snap a picture, let's say, of what's happening within the school that day or an event, and send an email campaign right from their phone. So they're giving their customers really great ways to leverage email. And as your list grows, it is not a tremendously expensive platform to grow with. They have pay-as-you-go plans on a monthly basis, depending upon the number of contacts that you may have within your subscriber database, if you will. They also allow you to create unique lists, so you could have a list for parents, you could have a list for students, you could have a list for advocates, you could have a list for your board, and be sending unique campaigns to those lists and seeing how people interact with that. What content do they like? Do they even open it? What actions? How many do they get forward? Do they share the email on social? It has some really great features that charters can take advantage of, whether they're starting or whether they're growing or not. The next tactic that we'll talk to is pay-per-click, or as it's known as PPC. This is really best for giving a website maximum visibility to people who may be looking for those key terms or searching for your school on search engines. And as we mentioned before, these would be the ads that are at the top of the search results, or at least for the time being within Google on the right-hand side. Bing and Yahoo are going to keep them on that right-hand side for the time being. This allows organizations to bid on those key terms that we talked about a few minutes ago, so that users can find those schools in interesting ways. So you've got some of the examples we shared earlier, like Science Charter School or Phoenix Charter School or Los Angeles or California Charter School or something along those lines. Organizations and schools can actually pay. They are bidding, if you will, on showing up in order within those ads. And in this case, you're only paying for the click, right? So you don't pay to just show up from an impression perspective. So every time that your ad is shown, you are not paying for that ad to be shown within that search results page. You only pay when someone actually clicks on your ad itself. So again, these would be the ads that are found right at the top of those search results pages or on the right-hand side, or if you're within a mobile browser, you can see how they're marking them with that gold box, that ad box there. Those are the examples of different PPC opportunities that are out there for schools. Again, these you're bidding on the key terms that you may be looking to drive either students or enrollments or fundraising or something along those lines. You're bidding for those terms. Now, what Google does is they look at a variety of different things to understand where you're going to show up in that order. They're looking at how much you're willing to spend for someone to click on your ad. They're looking at the relevancy of that ad. Friendly, does it work on a mobile website? They use any number of factors to really rank and decide who's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on down the line. So let's
Michael,
look.
can you? We have
Yeah.
a question. Can you just briefly speak to how folks go about getting their PPC ad posted?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to, for Google, it's google.com/AdWords. You can very easily set up an account. It's a step-by-step process. They take you through that process. It is extremely easy these days. You select the key terms that you want to bid on. You develop the ads, if you will. What's your title of the ad? What's the URL that you would like to show? What's the body content of that ad? All of these have character limitations, so you've got to figure out what works and what fits within those fields. And then you go about simply, you put in your payment source and you go about bidding on those key terms that you're looking to rank for.
Great.
Perfect. Another opportunity to consider as a charter is displayer or what's called banner advertising. Of course, if you've been on any website since the early 90s, you've often seen banners. These are really visually engaging ads that try and increase not only brand awareness, but you can also target potential customers as well here. Display ads appear next to content in various different websites. They could be text, they could be an image, they could be a video format. They're really best for increasing brand awareness, right? So that you're showing up, if you will, in different areas. And they can also be set up to target specific audiences, whether you want to be on a specific website, say your local news website, or if you only want to show up from a time of day perspective, or based on geography. So we only want to show our ads within a certain zip code or a certain radius of that zip code. One thing to keep in mind here is that, over the last few years, as we've transitioned from a desktop-first environment, if you will, to largely a mobile-first environment, banners are starting to have a little bit of a swan song, if you will. They through content. So when you're going to focus on creative and things for your banner ads, make sure you're leveraging your logo and you're talking about big themes or big focuses for the school or big asks around the school rather than very specific things, because someone's only spending a few seconds when they're reading that content, and many people are largely ignoring those banners. So making sure that you don't pack a lot of content into those ads is vitally important to try and drive some of that increased awareness from a display perspective. I will also say this is probably not a tactic that a startup school wants to leverage. It can be somewhat more expensive than some of the other tactics that we've talked about before. This is probably something to think about for a maturing school that's looking to either drive more engagement or drive more awareness of their school through various different banner opportunities.
And I'd like to say that the banner ads, that opportunity can work for schools for very, very specific programs and campaigns. So for example, if you're doing a fundraising effort, next could be beneficial for you.
Yeah, and Kim mentioned the other tactic, retargeting, is this idea of once you go onto your website, once a user goes onto your website, you have an and then we track them as they go around to different websites, whether that's Facebook or whether that's other places, and you can start to drop ads within their natural browsing behavior. This can not only just keep your brand top of mind as they're browsing, right? Maybe you've got an interested parent that's making a decision process over the next few weeks or next few months. It can drive enrollment from that perspective, so there are various different ways that you can leverage retargeting to make more specific asks around those banners as well. This is just a quick example of retargeting. So if someone comes onto this particular website, they begin to maybe fill out the contact form, or let's say they visit a few pages, they leave that page, they go on to Forbes.com. In this example, it could be your local news site, it could be Facebook, and they start to see ads showing up from the brand that they were, from that website or that school's website that they were coming from. And then if they clicked on that particular banner, they'd get taken to a landing page where they may be able to schedule a tour or register their student and really complete the form. So you can do a variety of things from a retargeting perspective to really drive different engagement opportunities with your school. The last tactic that we're going to talk to is video. This is video has grown exponentially, largely because we have faster wireless networks, we have faster LTE networks and 4G networks out there. You've also got people transitioning away from cable and into YouTube and things of the like, and Netflix and streaming just blowing up. Video growth over the next 3 or 4 years is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 400% adoption, 400% growth rate over the next few years. Videos can really help your school stand out by connecting with an audience and creating videos that they can share beyond not only just YouTube but into social. As you go about beginning creating videos, whether they're small snippets or whether they're actual long format videos, you're going to want to create a YouTube channel where all of your videos will reside for your audience to view. Why YouTube? Because not only is it the second largest search engine, it's the largest video, if you will, catalog on the net. So it's a good place to be for schools, whether they're starting or whether they're maturing. Make sure you're sharing those videos through social media or your blog posts, packaging them up for Instagram in 15 seconds or for Vine in 6 seconds. And keep in mind here that video doesn't have to be pricey. We're going to show you some places and some options that are very low editorial value, but it can be. So let's look at some of those options. We'll start at the top end of the budget, this idea of high production value.
First grade.
So that's an idea of a high production a high production value, if you will. You're using a video team, whether that's internal or external, to make this happen. Very expensive, so you've got to consider the costs here. One thing to keep in mind is you can take all that great video content when you've done a 2 or 3 or 4 minute video and start to splice it and use it in different places. So you can get a lot of different value from just, when you think of, oh, hey, it's going to cost me $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 to produce this 2 or 3 minute video for my school, but then you can take it and merchandise it down to Instagram or into 30-second spots or different opportunities that you can use in the future. Another different video option there is this animated or sketch option.
When I heard some parents talking about charter schools, I was all ears. One woman says, "I've heard charter schools are fantastic."
So that's an idea, an example of an animated video. These can be less dollar investment, but certainly have the same impact. And you can merchandise these in different places as well. Beyond sort of those high production, you will, whether these be 15 seconds or 6 seconds. We're just going to show you an example of an Instagram video here.
It's working. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
So happening within the school. You know, this is just taken on an iPhone or a mobile device, right? There was no additional editorial value. It was taken in a spur of the moment and then shared via this particular charter's Instagram profile. So you don't have to have that high production value to have just as much of an impact from a video perspective. Again, this is just another short video here from the Texas Charter School showing National School Choice Week. This is Vine, so it's only 6 seconds. And again, for all of these videos, we've included the link at the below because we know you may be having some buffering issues or may not hear them well. You can click on those links to take a look at these examples. But the important thing here is to consider, you know, the growth of video. The users and people, for that matter, are starting to gravitate towards video at just exponential rates because we've got better screens, we've got better devices, we've got faster networks. So you've got to be considering video over, now and over the next few years to really create connections for different audiences that you may have out there. The last thing we want to...
I just wanted to hop in and say that, the video is a really key piece for schools. I would encourage you all to think about ways that you can capture video at your events or anything that's going on in schools. Some charter schools have even started working with their students to take video and then review that video and post that video for sharing. Now, if you're going to do that, keep in mind that you're going to want to make sure that you have release forms on file from all of your students, and most schools do that, but if you don't, then that's something you'll definitely want to do so that you can use those videos. I know that we're getting at our 10 o'clock wrap-up time. We have another section here on digital marketing, which we will quickly run through for those of you who'd like to stay on for a few more minutes so that we can go through this. But again, the presentation is going to be downloadable to everybody once the webinar is completed, and you will be getting an email with a link so that you can download that presentation. So, Michael, if you can run through these really quickly, I don't think we'll spend a lot of time.
Yeah, I'm going to power through them. So the last thing we wanted to leave you was, how do you take all these tactics and pull them together? Just a process, a framework that you can put together. And it's a 6-step process, beginning with objective. What are we trying to solve? Are we trying to build awareness? Are we trying to drive enrollment? Are we trying to increase retention? What is that objective that we're trying to create? From there, you're going to want to plan. How much money do I have available to spend? How are we going to succeed? And then what are the different tactics that we're going to have available to us, right? If we've got a small budget, then we're probably not going to have the ability to go do all of those tactics, and we want to focus on different ones. If we've got a large budget, then we can start to do some mixing around of things. Finally, what content do we need for all of those things, right? Do we have access to copy? Do we have access to images and videos and templates that we can utilize, right? Maybe we have to do some legwork before we can leverage some of those tactics. Who's going to manage the costs are going to be associated with those, or a blended model. Maybe you've got a video partner that you work with, but then you guys manage all of the, the distribution of that video and things of that nature in-house. And then how do we do, right? All of this stuff, all of digital can be measured. That's the beauty of it. So how do we know what worked and what didn't? You're going to want to think about what those metrics that are valuable to the school. Is that total traffic? Is that click-through rate? Is that likes on Facebook? what's great about digital is if a tactic or a channel doesn't work, you can turn it off and it stops spending and you don't have to spend your time there. So utilize those tools that help you track those different metrics and measure that progress. And the last step is evolve, right? The beauty of digital is that once we know what's working or not, we can shift our focus there, we can shift dollars there, and we can shift effort there as needed for future campaigns. The last thing we'll leave you is a list of resources. All of these tactics that we've talked through, we've provided links to different opportunities for you to go learn about how to set up an AdWords account, how to create effective display ads. All these different tactics have got some resources here available to you. As Stuart mentioned, we have CSC has 2 more upcoming webinars, one on March 29th for facilities financing options, and the next one is April 5th after that, which is growth strategies for charter schools. And I will leave it to Kim to thank you for your time today.
Yeah, so thanks everybody. We really appreciate your joining us today. Thank you, Michael, for helping with this webinar and your fountain of resource. This webinar presentation is going to be available to everyone who attended today. And as you'll see on this last screen, our emails are listed. Please do reach out. I'm answer all of your questions that came in. So again, thank you very much. We will be doing this digital marketing webinar again. So